Welcome back, traveler. The fire is warm, and every fire has its story, so cozy up and prepare yourself for tonight's tale. For tonight's story is not written in the pages of history, but whispered between smoke and memory. Join me by the fire and enjoy the story. Nobody moved for several seconds after the bell rang. The sound had been soft, distant, yet every person in the tavern reacted as though they had heard a scream. The innkeeper hurried toward the windows and pulled the shutters closed with shaking hands. Wood slammed against wood. The room darkened immediately. Only the fire remained now. Orange light flickered across nervous faces. The woodsman stood slowly. You heard it too. Nobody answered him. Nobody needed to. The scholar stared toward the ceiling above them. There are no bells here, he whispered. The traveler listened carefully. The tavern had become silent again. No footsteps upstairs, no voices, only rain. The woman in the green cloak rose from her chair. We leave before dawn. The innkeeper looked horrified. You shouldn't go at all. We don't have a choice. The old man rubbed one trembling hand across his beard. You think Grey Hollow is the beginning of this? His voice lowered. It isn't. The room seemed colder again. The traveler studied him carefully. You've heard bells before. The innkeeper did not answer immediately. Instead, he stared into the fire as though remembering something he wished he could forget. Then he spoke quietly. 3 winters ago, a hunter came through this road after sunset. He claimed he heard bells in the northern fog. The woodsman frowned. What happened to him? The innkeeper swallowed. He returned 2 days later. The fire crackled softly. He had forgotten his own name. No one spoke after that. Outside, the rain continued against the shutters like soft fingertips. The traveler leaned back slowly. What did the bells do to him? The innkeeper shook his head. I don't know. But after that winter, he glanced toward the dark windows. Travelers stopped using the northern road. The scholar shifted uneasily. You never told us this. There was no point. The woman tightened the straps on her satchel. Fear changes nothing. The innkeeper gave a bitter smile. No, he said quietly. It only warns people. The traveler remained near the fire long after the others prepared for sleep. Eventually, the tavern grew still. One by one, the lanterns were extinguished. The woodsman slept near the hearth with his axe resting across his lap. The scholar disappeared upstairs. The woman remained awake beside the window for some time, watching the storm outside. Then eventually, even she retired. Only the traveler remained. The fire had burned low now. Red embers glowed beneath dark ash. The tavern creaked softly around him, old wood settling, rain whispering, wind moving through distant trees. Then, very faintly, he heard it again. A bell, far away, not loud, not violent, only a single lonely tone somewhere beyond the rain. The traveler slowly stood. The sound had come from outside. He crossed the tavern quietly and opened the shutter just enough to peer through. Fog drifted across the empty road. The lantern outside swung gently in the wind. Nothing moved. Then the bell rang again, closer this time. The traveler stepped back instinctively. Somewhere within the fog, a figure stood motionless beside the road, tall, thin, almost impossible to see clearly through the mist. It did not move, did not wave, did not approach. The traveler narrowed his eyes. The figure seemed to be holding something long in its hands. A staff, perhaps, or a pole. Then lightning flashed far away across the clouds. For only an instant, the traveler saw what it truly carried: a length of rope, a bell rope. The lightning vanished. Darkness returned, and the figure was gone. The traveler stood frozen beside the shutter. Behind him, the tavern floor creaked softly. The woman in the green cloak stood near the stairs. "You saw something." It was not a question. The traveler nodded once. She looked tired suddenly. Did it carry a rope? The traveler turned toward her slowly. "You've seen it too." The woman stared toward the shutter. Only once. Neither spoke for several moments. Then she whispered, "When the bells first stopped in Grey Hollow, people began seeing figures near the roads at night." The traveler watched her carefully. "Villagers?" She shook her head. "No." The fire popped softly behind them. The woman lowered her voice further. "The old stories call them listeners." A cold wind pressed against the tavern walls outside. The traveler frowned. "Listeners?" The woman nodded slowly. "They appear near silence, near abandoned bell towers, near fog." The traveler folded his arms. "And what are they?" The woman's expression darkened. "No one knows." The tavern groaned softly in the storm. Finally, the woman stepped back toward the stairs. "Try to sleep," she said quietly. "We enter the valley tomorrow." Then she disappeared upstairs. The traveler remained awake much longer, but the bells never rang again. They departed before sunrise. Rain still clung to the forest roads as the four travelers headed north. The woodsman led 2 pack horses carefully through the mud. The scholar rode silently with his hood drawn low. The woman walked ahead of them all. The traveler remained at the rear, watching the mist-covered road behind them. The farther north they traveled, the quieter the world became. Birdsong vanished first, then insects. Even the wind through the pine trees seemed strangely muted. Only boots, breathing, and the soft creak of wagon leather remained. By midday they reached the old forest pass. Ancient stone markers stood half-buried beneath moss beside the trail. The traveler noticed strange symbols carved into them: circles, lines, bell shapes. The scholar dismounted immediately to examine one. "These are much older than Grey Hollow." The woodsman did not stop walking. "Keep moving." The traveler looked around the forest. The trees here were enormous. Black bark, twisted roots, branches that blocked most of the sky above. Fog drifted slowly between the trunks, and hanging from several branches nearby were small iron bells, rust-covered, silent. The traveler approached one carefully. The bell had no hammer inside. Removed, just like the village bells. The scholar noticed it too. His face lost color. "These weren't here before." The woman stopped walking. "Before?" The scholar hesitated. "When we came through last month, the trees were empty." Nobody spoke. The woodsman gripped his axe tighter. Then the traveler noticed something else. The bells were hanging at different heights, almost like markers or warnings. A cold feeling moved slowly through him. The wind shifted gently through the trees, and somewhere deep within the fog-covered forest, a bell rang once.